The MS Michigan Man 64 podcast. My name is Brian Wallace, and I am the MS Michigan Man 64. The MS Michigan Man 64 podcast is about chronic disease awareness. I have had multiple sclerosis for the last 27 years. It's an invisible chronic disease that I've been battling for half of my life. I want to share with you what it is like living with the chronic disease from my experiences and the experiences of other chronic disease warriors. We can fight to have a voice to those that want to listen. Together, we can motivate and educate. Hi, welcome to the MS Michigan Man 64 podcast. So today I am sitting down with another MS warrior. He is from the state of Louisiana. And Gary, he has multiple sclerosis and he also suffers from dysarthria. And if I pronounce that wrong, I apologize. But what that is it affects his speech. So he has a hard time talking. Sometimes the clarity's a little bit off. But he is willing to talk about his MS, and I'm all for that. So please welcome Gary to the show. How you doing today, Gary?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing all right. So, Gary, you got diagnosed with primary progressive MS. Can you kind of take us through the time period when you were having your symptoms and how you ended up getting diagnosed with MS?
Sure. When I guess I must have been in my early or mid-30s. Mm-hmm. I was working at a retail store that's this local retail store, and every month we would have to do inventory scans, and I would get on my hands and knees, scan a bottom row of something, and I'd stand up and I'd get dizzy, and I started slurring a lot, and finally my fiancé was like, something ain't right. You're slurring too much, you're shaking, you're dizzy. We got to get you to a doctor. So we went, and they set me up with a neurologist, and he did his testing and did spinal taps and MRIs and all that wonderful stuff that you go through when you first get diagnosed. And he said, yeah, you got some lesions on your brain, and we think it's MS. We don't know what kind you have yet, but we're going to see how you relapse and all that. So I waited for a couple of years, and I would say the same. I didn't notice any big, relapses or anything. Mm-hmm. And finally he was like, I think you got primary progressive. Finally he was like, I think that's what we're going to settle on, because you are getting worse. You're just not noticing yet.
So with that diagnosis of primary progressive, then that they didn't even put you on any DMTs or anything to help slow it down.
No, I'm on what's it called? Copaxone? No.
Copaxone?
Oh, no, the one that I get that's infusion based. I'm drawing a blank on it. Excuse me.
Kimsenta?
Ocrevus?
Oh, Ocrevus. Okay. Yeah.
Ocrevus. For some reason I want to say Ozempic, and I'm like, no, that's not it.
Oh, yeah. You're fine.
That's the name that's coming up in my mind right now. So.
That's all right. I understand that. So you're on Ocrevus. Okay.
Yeah. I am on Ocrevus. And I have noticed that every 6 months I'm due for an infusion.
Okay.
And about month 5, I start noticing more symptoms. Like right now, I'm in between the 5th month and the 6th month. So that I'm noticing more slurring and shaking, and all my symptoms kind of coming back up to the forefront.
Because you're getting ready. You're getting ready for the next dose.
Right. And when I get that dose, I'm fine. Like if he does, I have some heart palpitations, side effects that might come into play. But about 2 or 3 days later, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm talking normal. I'm acting normal. I'm doing everything the way I used to. So,
yeah. So let me
Bear
ask.
with me.
So let me ask you this, Gary. You were working in retail. I mean, that was your career that you were doing, and retail. You got to be able to talk. So I mean, so obviously that kind of like took you out of commission for your ability to work. How did that go? Like, did you have to file for disability? I mean, so how did that?
Yeah, I'm on disability. It did take about 2 years. I got rejected twice, and then finally got a lawyer that took our case, and they went, and I finally got approved for it. So, but for about 2 years, it was rough.
So
I financially it was rough.
Yeah. So it took 2 years to go through the system, and in the meantime, you have no income, and people don't understand that that's something that we have to go through, and it's hard. I mean, it's a life-changing event that happens to you in life, and you go from earning an income to not being able to earn an income, and it's a hard thing to go through.
Mm-hmm. I was lucky at the time. My mother was very sympathetic, so she was, she tried to do it what she could. I mean, there was so much, but financially, if I needed something, she was very helpful.
Yeah.
We tried to budget and all that stuff. So, luckily for me, she was really good at the math and financing and stuff. So, he helped me.
Yeah.
Thank God. So,
Yeah, and that's so important to have that family support, especially when you're going through that diagnosis. And I mean, I leaned on family too when at certain times of my 27 years, and that's just such an important thing. And then you said that you were engaged at the time, so I mean, that's a huge thing for a wife, for a fiancé to get those words. Okay, your spouse has. Or your fiance has multiple sclerosis. How did your wife, Layla, how did she react to that when you first got them that diagnosis?
She was very supportive. I will say that she has Huntington's, so she kind of understood what I was going through when I was diagnosed with depression. Is it over? Is it all the horrible questions that run through your mind. What am I going to do? How am I going to live? Blah, blah, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So she was very sympathetic, and she was very understanding. She just told me we're going to do fine. We're going to be here. We're going to do what we can, and we'll be here for each other. You know,
and the thing that I love about that, Gary, is that she understands, because she is a chronic disease warrior also, battling Huntington's. So she understands that, you have a chronic disease. And I love that. That just makes me happy that you guys found each other, that you guys have that common bond together.
Well, we've always known each other. I mean, I remember playing t-ball with her and her brother, when we were kids. Yeah. And she was the girl next door. She literally, in high school, she was the girl next door. Yeah. And she got married and moved on, do all this stuff, and then got divorced. And I contacted her just to check on her, and she was like, hey, I always thought you were cute. Well, next thing I know, we're together, and we've been together coming on 10 years now, almost 11 years.
God, that's so awesome, Gary. I love hearing that. I love hearing that. So when you said that she helped you through the mental health part of it, can you talk a little bit about how this diagnosis affected your mental health and how you handled that?
Sure. I've always suffered from depression and anxiety. I kind of let things eat at me a little bit more than I used to, or than I don't. Well, hang on. I don't let things get to me like I used to. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
And when I was younger, even 10 years ago, I couldn't handle anxiety. Like, something happened, I'd just freak out.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally got to a low point after my sister and my mother died within a span of 2 months
Oh, my
of
God.
each other.
Wow.
It kind of left me and Layla alone. Like, we have nobody else.
Yeah.
I'm the last living member of my household.
Yeah.
My dad, my mom, and my sister all are gone.
Yeah.
So I finally hit the low point. I went to a hospital for a week. And in the hospital, I kind of started looking around at other people, their problems, their, disorders. And I was like, I'm not nearly as bad as I think I am.
Okay.
And I started reading up on Buddhist practices and meditating. And I still consider myself Christian, but I use a lot of the practices of Buddhism, which are
Meditation.
very close very close in theology. Be kind to each other, don't murder, don't steal, all that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
So it was very easy for me to transfer the belief system over,
Sure.
but I still consider myself Christian because I do, believe in Jesus and all that stuff, but I use, because Buddha even claims I'm not a god, I'm just enlightened.
Yeah.
I'm just a teacher. So I like that attitude, and I took it, and I ran with it, and I read upon it, and
So you
said,
use
this.
so you use meditation a lot to try to for your anxiety, depression. You use a lot of.
I've been practicing Tai Chi and Qigong when I can too. Also,
Okay. Okay.
it's mostly I use the stretching and the movement to help my balance and try to help ease the pain in my back and stuff like that.
Yeah. So that'll bring me to my next question for you. I know with MS, I have a lot of pain. I have a lot of neuropathy, leg pain, and I have a lot of back pain. So you have a lot of neuropathy pain too, also?
Yeah, my back stays hurting. Like, it just constantly never stops hurting. I've tried stretches. I've tried laying on the floor. And it's not just like lower back because I'm overweight or hurt the back. I would use my shoulders too much or whatnot. It's the whole spine hurts. Like, everything from the tailbone all the way up to through the neck.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So and the doctors don't obviously know what. According to my MRI, there's no lesions on it. Shouldn't be hurting, but there it is. It's hurting.
Yeah. So what do you do for that?
I've been doing a lot of Qigong and meditations, and there's a really great warm-up exercise for Qigong where you stand with your legs a little apart and you twist your back, and you slap your hands on your chest. I do that a lot. I try to move as much as I can without falling over.
Yeah, I hear you.
That's the hard part.
Yeah, and that's something that I always tell people with MS. I think is so important. Right after you get diagnosed, is to incorporate exercise into your daily routine because I just think that's a huge way of fighting the neuropathy. I used it a lot. I would do a lot of working out, a lot of leg stuff, exercising, and it seemed like the pain wasn't as bad, as intense when I would get into the gym. But as soon as I lost the ability to get into the gym is when that nerve pain started intensifying. So I do think that exercise is huge with the pain.
Oh, we tried the gym for a couple of years, the local gym here, and I would start working out and to get dizzy and lethargic and all that stuff that goes along with it. So working out's got to be easier time. So like I said, the Tai Chi and the Qigong and all that is more helpful because it's not as strenuous as lifting weights or going on a run or anything like that. Now, granted, I've never been a skinny meanie. I've always been a big guy from Louisiana. We eat here.
Yeah.
But I have lost 90 pounds.
Oh, wow.
In the last 2 years.
Wow.
So, and like I said, it's going slow.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was afraid of reaching 400 and some. I was scared of reaching 400.
Yeah.
So now I'm down to almost 300. I've almost lost 100 pounds.
Wow, that's awesome, man.
Like I said, I was scared of reaching 400. I wasn't quite there, but I was like worried I was going to get there.
Yeah.
So I started losing weight, started watching my diet, and and I've lost enough that I'm like, I could hit 290 and be happy with that as my starting goal line.
Yeah. I know.
Get that part.
Yeah, I know. I'm a big guy too. I'm 6'5", and I played football at Michigan and all that. And I'm 295 pounds, but weight control has been a big thing for me in my 27 years because I didn't want to get too big either. Because I figured, you know what, if I get into the 300s, 350, it's going to be harder for me to move. So it's going to make it harder on my MS. So I always tried to keep. I'm by no means I'm skinny, but I try to keep myself as close to in shape as I possibly can, just because I think it makes it easier on your body.
Oh, one of my greatest, this is sad, but one of my greatest accomplishments was a couple of 2 weeks ago. I saw my neurologist, and I walked in, and she was like, "Oh my God, Dr. A, come here." And you look at him, he's gone. He's disappearing on us. And I'm like, I've lost that much weight. Did you have to put him in here and show me off?
That's funny. Oh, that's funny. That's awesome. But it didn't go unnoticed, man. You got everybody's commenting on you losing the weight. That's awesome.
Yeah, I was kind of like, God, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
never happened before.
Yeah. So I know I use a lot of different tools to kind of like manage the mental health part of it. And what do you do now that you can't work and you lost that, MS has taken that ability that away from you? What do you use to like keep your mind, intact and like, keep your mental health good? What do you do to like keep your mind moving?
I like to read. I read everything I can. If it's a historical fiction, it's Stephen King, if it's a sci-fi fantasy, it doesn't matter. Whatever I'm in the mood for, I'm going to read it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I like. That's what I do when there's nothing else to do. Even when I have like things I got to do, I usually have a book around me. It's close by. So if I'm not working on a book, I feel like a drug addict. I'm kind of scratching at my arm like, I'm not going to read this.
Yeah.
I usually have 2 or 3 books lined up. I'm going to read that one next, that one. So I love to read. And that one's a big one for me.
That's good. And we have to find things, because if you're not in the community working, then you got to find something that you enjoy doing, whether, some kind of hobby to occupy your time, because it is so important to take care of your mental health with this disease. I mean, and you can't just sit in your house and just like become a vegetable, I mean, you still have to try to be a part of society as much as you can.
Yeah. Yeah. And I still do, I'm a part-time caregiver. I work for a company that has hired me to go sit with disabled and older people who need, an extra hand. And
yeah,
I'll do that every now and again, but I even had to slow down on that because, I'm probably going to be a client of theirs one day. So,
yeah. But but that's good for your mental health too, though, is that you're kind of giving back, before we might need that, so you're spending time with people and you're you're keeping them company, and I'm sure that does good for them, their mental health, and your mental health.
Yeah. I mean, and then you get to see, well, at least I haven't gotten to this progression yet. I'm not, slurring. I mean, I'm not rolling all over myself. I'm not doing all the stuff that some of my clients do. I got to put a client down that he walks with a walker, but it's a stand-up walker. Like, he has to hold it almost at chest level, so he can walk. And because he was in a horrible car wreck, and it almost paralyzed him. And he's doing a whole lot better than he was when I first met him.
Mm-hmm.
But I look at him and like, one day that could be me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not there yet, but I could be.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely puts things into perspective. And I always try to do the same thing, Gary. I mean, everybody has their poor me, and I do the same thing. But, I look at other people that have this disease, MS, and they're way worse than me. They completely lost their ability to talk and communicate. I know somebody over in the UK that happened to, and I couldn't imagine that. So, I mean, it always can be worse. I know, there's people that are permanently in a wheelchair, and I'm not. So you always have to keep positive and stay as positive as you can, and take small little wins and pat yourself on the back because you did it.
Yeah, that's one of the things I like about using this Buddhist philosophies is that you have to find gratefulness, and you have to find the thing to be mindful for and grateful for. I love that attitude.
Yeah.
I wake up every day and I'm like, look, I'm here. My sister's not, but I'm here.
Yep.
And,
Yeah.
But, and, you could be like, oh, I'm depressed. My parents are so lucky they're in heaven. But I'm like, you know what? I don't know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we don't know.
Yeah.
But I would hope we are, but, at least I'm here.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm still focused and doing what I got to do to survive.
Yeah, exactly. So, Gary, you are a fan of medical marijuana, and I am too. I am a big fan of it. I actually was never a person that liked any kind of drugs because I worked in a prison and all that. But when I got MS and I went out on disability, I was looking for some kind of relief for the pain and trying to get to sleep at night. And I had somebody, they said, hey, you should be eligible for medical marijuana. Have you ever thought of that? And I'm like, no, not really. But I tried it, and I actually did get relief. And I'm a very big advocate of medical marijuana. I smoke every day. And it helps me. It helps the anxiety part of it, of the MS.
Yep.
It helps it doesn't take the pain away, but it'll take the edge off for me, and it'll help me get to sleep. So you use medical marijuana. What are the benefits that you get out of the medical marijuana?
Well, I have noticed that my anxiety is kind of is not nearly as bad as it was when I was in high school. I was one of them kids like, I'm gonna grow old and think one day back on my life and say, I never touched this stuff. I'm so glad. I'm so proud. I'm like, no, not anymore.
Yeah.
I need it. It relieves me. It makes me feel better. My sister, before she died, she's like, you can tell the difference in your attitude between now and when you were a teenager. When you were a teenager, you stress out to everything. When you start smoking weed, you're like, whatever. I got it.
Yeah.
It'll be all right.
Yeah. I get a lot of benefit out of smoking medical marijuana. And like I said, I know it's not going to take away, and it's not going to cure the disease, but it helps you cope with it. It helps me cope with it. So I'm definitely a big advocate.
Yeah. And like I said, between that, the meditations, and trying to just live my life the way I want to, I've gotten off of depression medicines and anxiety medicines. I have figured out a way to wean myself off of that, and I don't need them anymore.
Yeah.
I give a lot of credit to the medical marijuana, the meditations, all that stuff has made me a better person, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and that's, go ahead. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. But back in the day, if I had done this before I started smoking, I'd have been nervous wreck. We wouldn't have had a good, decent conversation. I'd have been nervous.
Yeah.
I'd have cleaned up real quick.
Yeah. And that's another thing. And that's another thing that I've noticed just from talking to other MSers is that this disease is such an individual disease that you kind of have to tweak it that works best for you, because what works best for me might not work good for you, and what works good for you might not work good for me. But it's a lot of trial and error, and
that's why I like your podcast, because every week you talk to somebody different about what they're going to do, and every single story is almost different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
nobody has the same thing. Nobody goes through the same process. Like me, half the left side of my body is number than the right side.
Mm-hmm.
You very rarely people like, what do you mean? Well, the doctor does the test where he pokes you, and he'll poke you on each side of your body. And I always tell him, I said, I can feel it more on my right side, even though you're poking me the same pressure and same speed. I feel it more on my right side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and very rarely you hear people talking about that.
Yeah.
When I talk, half my mouth doesn't move, or at least goes up into a position where it doesn't move,
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the whole point of me doing this podcast is that it is different for everybody, and I don't think people understand that. And I'm trying to get more, getting people to understand that a little bit better, is that this is it's a disease that 2.5 million people have, but it's so individual. It just my MS is not going to be like your MS.
Nope.
But the one,
that's exactly what I was going to say. Is like, I'd never met two of the same people with MS. Like, they've never been exact symptoms.
Right.
You can compare and contrast. I went to support meetings when I first got diagnosed, and everybody at the table, well, I do this, I do this, I do this. Like, I don't do none of that shit. What's going on here?
Right. Yeah. I know people that use diet to help control their MS, and they eat the right foods. And I tell people, food doesn't bother me. I can eat greasy food. I can eat, it doesn't affect my MS. And I know other people that they find that certain foods really flare them up. So it is such an individual disease, and you have to tweak it, and you have to start doing it from day one. I started having to learn what triggered my MS flare-ups at the age of 27. And one of my biggest ones was stress. Stress kills me.
Oh.
Stress kills my MS. So, Gary, I want to talk, what do you use to stay positive? And, I just want to give you a chance to let people know that are fighting this disease or newly diagnosed with this disease. What would your message be to them to like keep them positive and motivated to keep fighting this disease?
Try to find something that fulfills you. Sometimes makes you anything from work to a hobby. Just find something that makes you feel like a normal everyday person. Just try to keep your life as routine as it used to be. You know, even if it's something as simple as reading a book, trying to get your mind off of the rest of the world for a minute.
Yeah.
Do something like that. Just try to find some solace in yourself. Try to discover who you are and what makes you happy and gives you fulfillment.
Yeah, I love it, Gary. Yeah, this is not a death sentence, and that's what I always tell people. Just because you get this diagnosis does not mean your life is over. You can still have a lot of good life left in you. You just got to figure shit out.
Yeah, it just takes a minute to figure it out, but if you keep it up, you'll get there. You just got to find what makes you happy, what gives you fulfillment, what gives you enlightenment. Anything, If it's something as simple as praying or meditating or reading a book or watching a movie, just get your mind off of the rest of the world for a minute.
Yep, I agree with you 100%, Gary. Gary, I really want to thank you for taking the time to talk to me and just helping people to understand this disease a little bit better and how, it is different for all of us. And I really appreciate you coming on and talking with me, Gary.
I appreciate you taking your time to put me on your show because I think it's important to get the word out there and try to make people understand.
Yeah, I'm all
we're going through.
Yeah, I'm all for it, because I think there's a lack of understanding about this disease and all chronic diseases, and I would just like people to understand it a little bit better. Thank you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gary. And this is the MS Michigan Man. I'm going to go ahead and get going here. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram or Facebook. You can find me on Facebook, Brian Wallace out of Brunswick, Ohio. Also, make sure that you share it, and you all have a great day, and I'll talk to you the next episode.